The global economy is burning, and a fierce trade war is torching the U.S. auto industry. Europe just erased $100 billion from American markets in 3 weeks. But it's Trump's own tariffs that might bury U.S. workers and consumers under the rubble. Welcome to a raw, unfiltered dive into a trade war that's shredding the global economy like a wrecking ball through a factory. Picture this: $100 billion in market value gone, 12,000 electric vehicles seized, and 200,000 American workers jobless in just 3 weeks. Europe, led by titans like Germany and France, has slammed an iron gate on U.S. automakers, while Trump's tariff gambit is backfiring, scorching allies like Japan and Canada, and choking industries from Alaska to Detroit. Japan, meanwhile, lurks in the shadows, outsmarting everyone with surgical precision. This is no policy debate. It's a high-stakes cage fight where workers, companies, and consumers are collateral damage. In this 2,500-word script, we'll dissect the EU's brutal offensive, the US's self-inflicted wounds, Japan's silent dominance, and the global fallout, using 2025's freshest data to expose a world fracturing under economic ambition. Strap in. This is a wild ride through a battlefield of tariffs, taxes, and survival. Europe's locked the U.S. auto industry out of its $4 trillion market. Germany's banned American EVs, seizing 12,000 cars in one swoop. But it's the EU's Green Crusade that's secretly rigging the game for its own players. Picture a fortress, Europe's $6 trillion auto market, now barricaded against U.S. manufacturers. The EU has drawn a line in the sand, and American automakers are sinking in quicksand. Germany, Europe's economic powerhouse, has frozen certification of U.S.-made electric vehicles, EVs, citing violations of stringent data sovereignty and emission standards. This isn't a minor regulatory snag, it's a deliberate, crippling blow. Chancellor Olaf Scholz has called U.S. tariffs fundamentally wrong, but Germany's response is far from diplomatic. It's economic warfare. Tesla, Ford, and General Motors are directly targeted, their EVs barred from European showrooms, leaving dealers with empty lots and customers with fewer choices. The assault doesn't stop there. France has unleashed a carbon tax juggernaut, slamming America's heavy-duty SUVs and trucks with levies tied to weight and fuel consumption. Think of it as a toll booth that charges a semi-truck 10 times more than a compact car. Denmark has joined the fray, axing EV subsidies for U.S. brands, stripping Tesla and Ford of their price competitiveness in a market where subsidies can make or break sales. These moves are no coincidence. They're a synchronized EU offensive, with 12,000 US-made EVs seized or delayed at EU ports in just 3 weeks. Images of gleaming Teslas and Fords surrounded by customs officials have gone viral, a humiliating symbol of America's exclusion from Europe's green revolution. The financial carnage is staggering. Wall Street hemorrhaged $100 billion as Tesla's stock cratered 11%, Ford's plunged 9%, and GM slid 7%. Smaller EV companies, unable to meet Europe's rigorous standards, have collapsed entirely, their dreams of innovation crushed under regulatory weight. Tesla's $31.4 billion European expansion, including the Gigafactory Berlin, is frozen solid, with EU banks and governments halting funding amid allegations of recycling fraud and data privacy breaches. Tesla, once a darling of Europe's green push, is now persona non grata, forced to pivot to Southeast Asia, India, Vietnam, Thailand, where regulations are less suffocating. This isn't just a financial hit, it's a strategic surrender, with Tesla abandoning Europe's fortress for uncharted territory. Why is Europe so unrelenting? It's a mix of principle and power. The EU is wielding its environmental and consumer protection standards as weapons, signaling that no amount of US lobbying can override public trust. European automakers, Volkswagen, BMW, Stellantis, thrive under these same rules, which seem tailor-made to favor their strengths in efficient engineering and compliance. It's as if the EU designed a race where only its cars have the right fuel. For American workers, the toll is devastating. 87,000 jobs vanished in 3 weeks, with factories in Michigan, Ohio, and Tennessee shuttering or slashing production. The auto supply chain, already battered by global disruptions, is in freefall, with suppliers and satellite companies scaling back or closing entirely. Families in car-making heartlands, who've built lives around this industry, now face empty bank accounts and uncertain futures. Europe's message is clear: adapt or perish. But can U.S. automakers retool fast enough to survive this transatlantic gauntlet? Trump's tariffs were meant to save American jobs. They've cost $50 billion and alienated key allies instead. Now, from Alaska to Detroit, it's U.S. workers paying the price for his blunder. Across the ocean, the U.S. is fighting back with a sledgehammer and smashing its own toes. President Trump's 25% tariffs on vehicles imported from Mexico and Canada, rolled out in March 2025, were sold as a shield for American jobs. Instead, they've sparked a wildfire, scorching allies and domestic industries alike. Imagine building a moat to protect your castle, only to drown your own fields. These tariffs blindsided Japanese automakers, Toyota, Honda, Nissan, Mazda, who've invested billions in Mexico and Canada to streamline costs and supply chains. Japanese brands command 35% of the U.S. auto market, a $50 billion slice, and Trump's policy just slashed their profits and disrupted their operations. The fallout is chaos. Japanese car prices in the U.S. spiked 25%, with delivery delays stretching weeks. Dealerships from Detroit to Dallas report empty lots, as consumers, loyal to Japan's durable, fuel-efficient vehicles, refuse to switch to pricier or less reliable American options. U.S. automakers, already battered by Europe, can't fill the gap in small cars or hybrids, leaving the market in a lurch. Local parts suppliers, dependent on Japanese orders, are hemorrhaging revenue, with some facing bankruptcy. It's a domino effect. One tariff triggers a cascade of shortages, price hikes, and lost sales. The tariffs also fractured North America's tightly woven supply chain. Ford is slashing production by 15 to 20%, projecting a $2 billion loss next quarter. GM plans to cut 100,000 vehicles, crippled by part shortages from Canada. The tech sector isn't spared. Apple warns of 5 to 8% revenue drops for iPhones and MacBooks, while Intel struggles to source Canadian microchip materials. The US-Canada relationship, once a beacon of trade harmony, now resembles a bitter feud, with sanctions replacing handshakes. Trump's America First mantra has alienated a neighbor whose parts and labor are vital to U.S. industries. Then there's Alaska, a state already reeling from the continent's highest living costs. Trump's tariffs have turned the 1,387-mile road linking Alaska to the mainland into an economic chokehold, driving up prices for gas, food, and building materials. Alaska Air Group's stock plummeted 15% in a week, and the $2 billion tourism industry faces a 25% drop in visitors as Alaska Airlines hikes ticket prices 20%. Cities like Juneau and Ketchikan, where tourism accounts for 40% of revenue, brace for a 30% income hit. 8 to 10 million tourists may cancel trips in 2025, gutting hotels, tour guides, and small businesses. Shipping giants like UPS and FedEx face 15% cost increases, with losses potentially hitting $1 billion in 3 months. For Alaskan families, who spend 10% of their income on basics, these price hikes are a death knell. Trump's response? A defiant vow to stand up for America, but his policies are leaving Alaskans, and millions of others, stranded. Japan's rewriting the rules of the global auto game. They're dodging Trump's tariffs with a $5 billion master plan. While the U.S. burns, Japan's quietly stealing the future of cars. While the U.S. and EU trade blows, Japan moves like a grandmaster in a chaotic chess game. Japanese automakers didn't flinch, they adapted. Toyota committed $5 billion to hybrid production in Japan, targeting Europe and Southeast Asia, where demand for green vehicles soars. Honda expanded its 3 Thai plants, which churn out 300,000 vehicles annually, and scouted Vietnam for new factories. Nissan unveiled a $20,000 EV Leaf for 2025, a price point where U.S. competitors like Ford and GM struggle to compete. This isn't a knee-jerk reaction. It's a strategy honed since 2018, when Japan began bracing for trade protectionism's resurgence. Japan's technological edge is its trump card. Investments in solid-state batteries, automated production, and alternative energy ensure efficiency and sustainability, aligning perfectly with the EU's green standards. By diversifying production across Southeast Asia, Japanese firms sidestep political risks and tariff traps. Toyota, Honda, and Nissan still hold 35% of the U.S. market, raking in $30 billion from hybrids and EVs alone. Factories in Thailand and Indonesia have ramped up to fill gaps left by Mexico and Canada, keeping supply chains humming while U.S. firms stall. Japan's government bolsters this push, funding EV infrastructure and cutting-edge manufacturing, cementing its automakers as global leaders. Compare this to the U.S.'s disarray. While American factories close, Japan's hum with precision. While U.S. consumers face shortages, Japanese dealerships restock with affordable, reliable models. As one Nissan executive put it, "We don't put out fires, we ensure they never reach the engine." This quiet, ruthless efficiency exposes the U.S.'s tariff-driven chaos and Europe's protectionist rigidity. Japan isn't just surviving, it's shaping the industry's future with a playbook that blends innovation, adaptability, and foresight. Trump's tariffs are crashing America's aviation giant. Boeing's planes now cost triple thanks to a 200% tax. But it's Airbus and China laughing all the way to the skies. The trade war's shockwaves extend beyond autos, threatening America's aviation pride. Trump's 200% tariff on Boeing's Mexico-made planes is a catastrophic misstep. Boeing, aiming to cut labor costs, shifted production south, a move that should have strengthened its global edge. Instead, Trump's tariff triples plane prices from $100 million to $300 million, pricing Boeing out of key markets. Boeing's stock tanked 8% in 2 days, and analysts warn 2 million planes may go unsold in 2025, costing tens of billions in revenue. It's as if Trump handed Boeing a lifeline made of lead. Rivals are circling. Airbus has gained 25% market share in 2 years, opening plants in tariff-friendly regions. China's Comac is expanding, poised to capture Boeing's lost contracts. While Boeing navigates Trump's economic minefield, its competitors dance in open skies. The financial markets reflect this turmoil. The Dow Jones plummeted 2,000 points in a week, and U.S. Treasury bond rates hit a 20-year high, climbing from 1.5% to 2.1%. Investors lost $400 per $10,000 in Dow Jones funds, and borrowing costs are squeezing companies and consumers alike. Tech giants are collateral damage. Apple projects 5 to 8% revenue losses for iPhones and MacBooks due to delayed Canadian components. Intel's microchip production falters without Canadian materials, risking product shortages. 75% of U.S. consumers fear tariff-driven price hikes, with iPhone 12 prices potentially jumping 10% to $1,099. Trump's erratic exemptions, briefly sparing electronics before reversing, have left companies like Dell and HP unable to plan, delaying forecasts and hiking production costs. It's a policy whirlwind, and businesses are caught in the storm. This trade war is splitting the globe apart. It's not just money. 200,000 lives are in ruins. Yet the real fight is over who controls the future of trade. This trade war lays bare a world splintered by competing visions. The EU's Green Crusade doubles as protectionism, shielding its automakers while crushing U.S. competitors with regulations they can't meet. It's a masterclass in wielding ideals, sustainability, consumer rights as economic weapons. Trump's tariffs, sold as patriotic, are a boomerang, wounding allies like Japan and Canada, starving U.S. industries of parts, and driving prices skyward. From Alaska's beleaguered families to Boeing's grounded ambitions, the human and economic toll is immense. Japan's quiet triumph exposes the power of strategy over chaos, its investments in technology and diversification outpacing the West's reactive blunders. The tensions reveal deeper fault lines. Europe prioritizes collective standards, even at the cost of global harmony. The U.S. clings to isolationist bravado, ignoring its reliance on interconnected supply chains. Japan embraces globalization's realities, building bridges where others burn them. 200,000 jobless U.S. workers, Alaskan families spending 10% of income on basics, and millions facing higher costs underscore the stakes. Global supply chains, once a tapestry of cooperation, are now battlegrounds, with nations retreating into fortified camps. The irony? Consumers, the supposed beneficiaries, are the biggest losers. 75% of Americans brace for price hikes, not just for cars or phones, but for essentials like food and fuel. The US-Canada rift, Japan's Asian pivot, and Europe's walled-off market signal a retreat from the open trade that once fueled prosperity. This isn't just a trade war, it's a reordering of the global economy, where ambition and mistrust are rewriting the rules. This trade war is no game. It's a tragedy reshaping lives and nations. The EU's regulatory hammer, Trump's tariff misfires, and Japan's calculated counterstrike have cost $100 billion, 200,000 jobs, and countless futures. As nations fortify their borders, they're locking out opportunity. The question isn't who wins this war, but who can endure its scars. Share your thoughts. Are tariffs a shield or a shackle? Stay tuned as this saga unfolds and keep watching the board. The next move could change everything.